so honored to be here today to talk about matters of the heart, and so I'd like to talk about teachers. I believe that our country's greatest asset are all the kids who are in school today. They are our future doctors and innovators and teachers and researchers. So we trust teachers with these students, not only to maximize their learning today, but also, which slide? Oh, great. But also to ensure a path toward a successful future. So given that the teachers have such an important role, I think that we should nurture them and love them and spoil them and cherish them and pay them well, and instead I believe we're failing. The reason that I think we're failing is there's many reasons. One, teachers leave more than any other profession. Two, they take on second jobs. And three, they feel the impact of this disrespect. You may think that's harsh. I'm going to share with you something I just recently came across. Uber has decided to recruit teachers to drive for them in their off hours. That's weird, right? They're not recruiting pediatricians or legislators or oceanographers. They're recruiting teachers because everyone knows that teachers can't make ends meet. If you are planning on getting an advanced degree, or you already have one, would you anticipate that you would need a second job in order to do your everyday job? 62% of people in the United States who teach have to do secondary jobs in order to make ends meet. I have personally interviewed teachers who do tons of extra work within education in order to make ends meet. But I've also interviewed teachers who do housekeeping work, who work in restaurants, who bartend. I have a very good friend, Eric Benner, and he hauls flooring materials in the evenings and on the weekends. And his former wife used to say that she just was sad on Sundays to take the kids to church alone. Obviously, this is completely sad. For me, this is an incredible matter of the heart because I think teachers play a really important role in the fabric of our democracy. And it's especially a close matter of the heart for me because I decided to become a teacher myself. I couldn't think of anything more important to do than to make sure that a young person had a successful future. I also decided to become a teacher when I was in high school because I had magnificent teachers myself, and I was so grateful for that experience. I ended up going into the classroom with a ton of support, and I loved being in the classroom. I remember being in my late 20s and thinking, who could be happier? Who could be more fulfilled? Watching young people grow is so magnificent. And I did my best to go all out every day. I recreated the Harlem Renaissance, and I tried to recreate war scenes, and I worked all weekend trying to give my students meaningful feedback on their essays, and I was so impressed by my colleagues, and I had master mentor teachers. Meanwhile, and I felt incredibly supported on campus and appreciated. I would leave campus and I would get the opposite feelings from people, and I really started to understand America's ambivalent feelings toward my profession. So I would be with a girlfriend, imagine me back again in my late 20s, and I would be with a girlfriend and she would say that she worked in X job, and she would get all of these really interested follow-up questions about her job. And I would say, I'm a public school teacher, and I would get, good for you. And I would think, wow, that person doesn't think my job is sophisticated or critical. I think, what do you mean good for me? Did you mean to say good for the community, good for the country? I was ensuring our country had a bright future. What did you do today? So it was so upsetting. It was so upsetting to feel this tension, to work with strong faculties to make a difference, and then to feel this ambivalence. So in my 20s, I felt it, and in my 30s, I started to try and do something about it. So as you know, I co-authored a book, and I produced a movie on this topic with my friend Dave Eggers and other friends, Daniel Moulthrop and Academy Award-winning filmmaker Vanessa Roth and Brian McGinn. And what we were trying to do with these tools was put a human face on the realities that the 3.2 million teachers experience. And we interviewed teachers about their incredible commitment to their kids, about the impact that they have on kids. We also interviewed them about the challenges they experience, the financial stresses, and the absolute absurdity of their second jobs. We also pointed out the research, and the research told us what we already intuitively knew, which is once you step on a school campus, the teacher is the most important school-based factor. It's not a beautiful campus, it's not a technology tool, it's not, I'm sad to say, the size of the classroom, it's none of those things. It's the quality of the humans that the young people interact with. So This is a really important time. The reason that I feel really optimistic is because 1 million teachers are about to retire, and we have this one window open where we can tell college kids that they should go into teaching and that we will protect them financially and professionally. So I feel very, very optimistic that we can do the right thing. Since we produce these tools, people around the country have been trying to raise salaries. Some of those efforts have been almost honorable, and most of them have been quite mediocre. So let me paint a picture of my vision. Instead of what we have, imagine that you have a 3rd grade daughter, and she loves school. And her teacher is a guy who graduated the top of his college class, and he bypassed a tech job, he bypassed law, because he was really passionate about education. And he knew he could grow professionally and financially. Then imagine your daughter goes to high school, and she falls in love with science. And her science teacher, instead of just checking homework and running after school to go to her second job, she stays after school. And instead of just doing a cursory curriculum, she makes sure that her students master science concepts. Your daughter decides to study science. Then she's in college, she's doing really well. And you think she's probably going to be a researcher, and instead she comes home and she says, you know what, I want to go into teaching. And imagine that your response is, that's awesome. And you don't worry about how she's going to pay her college loans. You don't worry about how she's going to make ends meet. And you don't worry at all about how she's going to raise her family. You really believe that this is going to work out beautifully. So what all these stories have in common is that strong teachers are driving students to excel, and those students are thriving. And I believe that we can get there, but we need to professionalize pay so that this can be the story that happens in every school, in every county, in every community. So I would argue, instead of doing this, that things have actually grown more challenging recently. So when women were first not allowed into the workforce at all, the teaching door sort of eked open, and there were 2 reasons why women were invited into the teaching force. One was because apparently we were more nurturing or sweeter or something like that, and the second was that we were cheaper. So this maternal babysitter cheap labor mold is something that we've never really broken out of, and in recent times things have grown more challenging. For the past 40 years, teachers' salaries as compared to GDP have declined 2% each year, which just means that teachers can do less with their money. In addition to that, the average salaries in our country start at $39,000. That doesn't sound so bad. A lot of professions start around there. After 25 years of professional experience, the average ending salary is $67,000. That's just not the right number. It's not American. It's not inspiring. That's a problem. 92.4% of American teachers buy their own supplies. I'd just like for you to imagine going into your doctor's office and they come running in a little late from work with their bag from the pharmacy with like their own cotton balls or something. It's just absurd. It's totally absurd. Teachers are priced out of home ownership in 32 metropolitan areas. What happens with teaching is that teachers leave the profession more than any other profession with the same amount of training. 46% leave before their 5th year. What ends up happening is it creates this leaky human bucket and makes it impossible for schools to thrive. You can't have that amount of intelligence and talent just walking out the door every single year. With 10 to 15 years experience, with a master's degree, teachers earn less than flight attendants in Georgia, sheet metal workers in Oklahoma, truck drivers in Colorado, and of course, expert master teachers earn less than Uber drivers in New York. Now, we don't have to go very far. We know that there are incredible international examples of success. One story I'll tell you is about Poland, which is a less well-known story. In Poland, right when they came out of communism, their kids were testing at the very, very bottom of critical thinking skills. And they decided to make a proactive big change. And some of the changes that they made is they changed what they expected their students to learn. They gave teachers a huge amount of responsibility and autonomy, and they held teachers accountable. And the students then, after this major transformation, the students started testing near the tippy top of the most successful countries. One of the changes that they made, which is what I'm arguing today, is that they paid the teachers professionally because they valued the work that they were about to embark on. Now, we know the countries that are at the very, very tippy top share this incredible value of teachers. The government values them, the strategies value teachers, parents value them, students value them, and in a lot of different ways. They show teachers that they care about them in ways that we don't in this country in general, and again, that's why I think we're failing. Their turnover also in those countries that are very, very successful reflect this value in the way that they nurture and cherish their teachers. So what I worry about is this entire picture, is we are telling college kids that if they want to teach, they have to take a vow of poverty, and I believe there's another way. Top college graduates are telling us, the research is telling us, they want to do work that's socially impactful. They care about their communities. And yet, they look at the teaching profession and the numbers don't add up. When I was applying to get my master's in education, I got a lot of support. I remember in particular from one professor, and she helped me apply, not apply, but she helped with my recommendation letters, and she said to me, you're gonna be great in the classroom. But had she said to me, you're going to be great in the classroom, I wonder what your second job will be. Do you think you'll be in a restaurant and maybe drive a taxi? I would have run for the hills. Everybody has given me reasons why we shouldn't raise teachers' salaries. So I wonder if maybe a couple of these are on your mind. So we'll just go through them, and hopefully you'll end up on my side totally and completely. So with the unions, I was a really proud member of the NEA, and I'm a diehard believer in collective bargaining. But honestly, the unions need to get way out in front of evaluation. They should have been using their resources all this time, and hopefully in the future, making sure teachers have the tools and training to do a great job. And they certainly should have made sure that tenure meant more than I made it through my second year. So poverty is an enormous challenge, and I have a lot of respect for the challenges that students come with to school. And I absolutely believe that students who come from low-income neighborhoods need a lot of services. And I also believe that if they don't see a quality teacher every day, then we actually have no chance of fighting the cycle of poverty. So what I would argue is let's make sure that we're valuing that teacher that they're faced with and add the other services. So people think teachers have it easy. Don't they get off at 3? They have their whole summers off. What do? It looks so easy. Teachers make 1,000 decisions a day. They don't make it about something abstract. They make it about the life of a child in front of them. Teachers are the only profession who might face 25 to 35 clients at the very same time. Most people cannot organize a second grade birthday party without hiring outside help. There is no way that most people can make sure a whole group of second graders coming from different backgrounds and different levels of skills can all read fluently by the end of the year. It's complex work, and we need to start treating the teachers like the professionals that they are. Then people say, Nínive, fine, I'd love to raise salaries, but what about those bad teachers? And they think about the one lemon teacher who put on a video and put his feet up on the desk. There are bad teachers. There are teachers who are burnt out. There are teachers who joined the classroom with the best intention and never received even 2 minutes of mentorship. They were completely isolated, and maybe they never did their best work. I would say that we need to make sure that we can support teachers, and for teachers who aren't able to succeed, that we need to dismiss teachers with dignity. But I'm also arguing that we need to shine a light on the complexities and the excitement and the wonderfulness of this work so that more teachers will join. And I worry that this kind of thinking about the bad teachers, it's antagonistic. And I think what I want to do is just continue to focus on positive teaching so that more college kids will be enticed to join this profession. Other people are very tempted by the just pay the teachers well, let's treat it like the real world. I just want to point out that in the real world, when people receive bonuses, they're often on top of already a livable wage. So what people have been experimenting with in our country is trying to offer just small amounts of bonuses on top of very, very meager salaries. And I think the dynamic, again, is very, very demoralizing. And I certainly think that tying a teacher's individual salary to the student's test scores is absolutely the worst idea that we've ever come up with. And I also want to point out that in its essence, a school is a group of humans trying to raise another group of humans together. That ecosystem requires a ton of collaboration, communication, cooperation, trust, and risk. And I just want to make sure that we're not doing bonus structures that could possibly erode that fragile and really important ecosystem. Other people have said to me, Nínive, there's no silver bullet that's going to fix all 14,000 districts in our country. And to that, I totally agree. we're going to need to do a lot. What I'm saying is let's stabilize the teaching force, let's treat them well, just so that the real work can really begin. Then, when I finally manage to convince somebody that they think, oh my gosh, that sounds great, let's do this. How can we possibly afford it? We have no money. We spend more money than any other industrialized country on students. Had teachers' salaries kept pace with classroom spending, the average salaries in our country would be $120,000. So let's look within education budgets and prioritize. The research is saying that it's the people who matter. Let's put the money there in the classroom, give it to the people, stabilize this profession. I would also say that I think it's too expensive not to. The school-to-prison pipeline is incredibly well documented. It's incredibly sad. We have 7,000 kids every day who feel pushed out of school, who are not connected. And so I'm arguing again, let's put the money at the beginning. So before I conclude, I just want to ask you a favor. Can you, for a moment, think about an awesome teacher in your life? Think about somebody who, in addition to your family and friends, helped make you who you are today. I know that at an incredibly profound level, you value their work. I'll be lucky if I don't cry, by the way. We'll just address it. I'll be lucky if I don't cry. I know that you value their work. So I have to ask you a question about that person. Would it be okay with you if after a full day's work, they hopped into an Uber to drive people around at night? I hope that offends you. I hope that offends you as much as it offends me. And before I end my speech, I just want to thank my teachers. I want to thank every teacher that you just thought of. And I want to thank so many teachers in our country that, despite these incredible obstacles and the paltry pay and the lack of authentic prestige, that they go into the classroom every day, they bring magic to the classroom, and they try their best to find a light in every child. I am incredibly, incredibly grateful. And the reason that I do this work is that I just want everyone to have great teachers like I did. I also want schools to be staffed 50% faculty men. I want the staffs of schools to have people from every ethnic background that the students come from. I also want to live in a country where college students stay up at night and worry if they could possibly be talented enough, trained enough, smart enough to become a teacher the way they worry today about getting into law school or getting a tech job. And finally, I want to live in a country where we treat teachers as a solution, where we understand that they have the most important job in the world, and that we never, ever, ever, ever hop in a taxi to find a teacher at the driving wheel. Thank you.